How many of you remember your first day at school? Or your first day on a team? Anywhere that was a brand new context for you? Did your heart pound? Did you look at everyone, wondering if you'd fit in? I want you to join me on my first day of middle school, a place that was a brand new context for me, a 12-year-old girl who just got dropped off at the front door. Close your eyes and imagine your first day of school. A new school, with new people, new teachers, everything is new. As you enter, your heart is beating out of your chest. Kids are swarming the halls, and everything becomes louder. You feel a bit disoriented. I thought everyone could see how I felt, but then I realized that no one else noticed I had this anxiety because it's something that you feel internally and it isn't always shown. I want to take you on my journey, a revelation you might say, that hopefully changes your perspective on mental health. To guide you on this journey, I'm excited to share with you my dance through anxiety. Anxiety is normal, and it lives within all of us. We all get anxious or nervous at different times in our life. But there are times, in the eyes of someone who has anxiety, where even our smallest fears can take over our whole body and make us feel powerless, like when I first walked into that middle school. On my own journey, I've come to the realization that simple events that may seem easy to other people were challenging for me. When dealing with mental health, we need to be kind to others, and we need to be kind to ourselves. People hesitate to talk about it openly, and it isn't something we share easily, even with our friends and family. Why do you think we hesitate? Because we're worried that they won't understand. Learning more about the physical, the emotional, and the psychological effects that mental health challenges have on our bodies will help us understand the type of impact it makes on our day-to-day lives. Let's backtrack. We're all aware of the COVID-19 pandemic that hit us in 2020 and is still going on. It was something unexpected, crazy. We were all scared. At the beginning of the pandemic, we lost touch with our friends, our family, and were disconnected from hobbies that might have provided an outlet for the stresses that we were feeling. And I know that the pandemic must have contributed to that stress. For me, my outlet was dance. I never knew how big of an impact it made for me when I was using it to calm my anxiety. Because my dance studio was shut down from the pandemic, it became harder for me to refine that same outlet. That's why I remember exactly what happened when it first hit. Everyone stayed home. Masks were worn everywhere, businesses were shut down, the whole 9 yards. What we really didn't talk about was the people. How was the pandemic affecting us? The number of people in Canada and the United States affected by mental health issues tripled during COVID-19. According to Statistics Canada, the majority of the people who were affected were youth aged 13 to 18. Why do you think that is? Well, youth thrive on social connection, and during the pandemic, we felt alone and isolated. That loneliness and disconnection were emotions that youth reported feeling during this time, and this led to those high levels of anxiety. But first, how can we define anxiety? Anxiety is a natural human reaction that involves both your mind and your body. Think of it as an alarm system that is turned on or activated when our body is reacting to fear. You get a sense of uneasiness, nervousness, or worry, and these emotions are symptoms of your anxiety. But these are the physical aspects of it, but what goes on in our brain and our nervous system is on the inside. When our body is in fear, it sets off an automatic response triggered by our nervous system. You might have heard of it, the flight, fight, freeze response. Now let's think deeper about this. It happens in the part of our brain called the amygdala, which manages our emotional responses and protects our body from danger. Sometimes your amygdala senses anxiety and causes a response even when there's no real danger at hand. For example, you're taking a test at school and your mind goes blank on the first question. You froze. You're not in a dangerous situation, but the response was triggered because you felt that anxiety. Psychologist Daniel Goleman calls this an amygdala hijack, when your amygdala responds to stresses and hijacks your emotions and your prefrontal cortex. 1 in 3 children within those ages I mentioned, 13 to 18, will experience some sort of anxiety within their life. If this anxiety were to occur, I want to give you the knowledge to recognize and to cope with it. We are all unique, but what our bodies have in common is its ability to adapt to a certain scenario, both physically and mentally. So I like to think that it's important to have empathy during this process. Not just with anxiety, but in everything that you do, you should have empathy. Because your body is trying your best, and we are all trying our best. Being aware of how we treat ourselves and others can help us be empathetic to challenges with mental health. Making sure that we don't feel alone or not supported. Making sure that we take care of people who are more vulnerable to mental health challenges. But noticing who is the most vulnerable starts with finding the sources of their symptoms. For a student like me, one of the leading sources of anxiety was simply high expectations or pressures to succeed, which can be overwhelming. Peer pressure is another. Even social media is a contributing factor, believing that whatever we see on the internet is true, which is highly unlikely. Now let me take you back to that first day in middle school. It was the first time the anxiety I felt was more than I could handle, and I realized that I never wanted to feel this way ever again. When you think about your own personal source of anxiety, the question you ask yourself is why? Why do I feel nervous at times? Why does my body feel like it's struggling to keep up with my emotions? What I continued to notice about my body during that moment was my heart beat faster, my breathing quickened, my muscles tensed, my palms were sweaty, my hands and legs were starting to shake. And that response was caused by my adrenaline, which was rushing through my body because my amygdala yelled out, "Danger." It kept my body alert until my brain figured out that the threat was gone. Now, there are different ways for you to manage this fight, flight, freeze response so that you're not freaking out during everyday situations. And it's not just for anxiety, but it's a good way to take a break from the outside world and relax. Start with going to sleep and waking up at the same time. You'll feel refreshed, have more energy, and your amygdala won't trigger its response as often. Going outside, getting some exercise, meditating. You want to learn to love your body by pampering it through skincares, showers, taking care of your hygiene, all of it. For me, I took my feelings and I channeled it into my passion for dance. I have been dancing since I was 5 years old. I always loved listening to music and moving to the sounds of the beats, and it became my passion. Dance was my space, a space I felt confident in, a space for me to be creative. Dance was the one thing I never felt nervous about doing. Whether it was rehearsing or performing, I started off doing recreational dance, and then I went competitive. After that, I performed at the P&E and Playland. Whenever I felt those nerves or anxiety, I changed my perspective. I put an optimistic twist on it, thinking of it as excitement. Fear is my excitement hidden, like a butterfly bursting out of its small cocoon. I was able to dance better this way. I always danced with a smile on my face, and I learned to embrace my fears. I started to talk to the people I trusted most about my anxiety. Figuring out how to deal with it through dance allowed me to realize I was getting worked up and nervous over something that was never dangerous to begin with. Instead, I used it as an opportunity to learn and to have fun. It actually gave me the confidence to give back to my community by teaching dance to youth. I also started to value open communication because sometimes small things like doing yoga, exercising, or dancing is a temporary fix. When anxiety starts to affect your ability to connect with your friends, family, school, or even your hobbies, you want to find permanent fixes to implement into your regular routine. That might even be working with a psychologist, through therapy, or even medications to help you find that balance where you don't have an overpowering sense of worry throughout your whole day. If you remember, fear is your excitement hidden. Whenever you encounter something that is so stressful and so scary, but it's something that you need to do, and it's something that I use that worked for me to put an optimistic twist on all my fears, is fear is your excitement hidden. Thank you.